Good evening. I'm Rob Davies.
And I'm Rob Gillies. We are climate scientists.
Actually, I'm a physicist.
Yes, he is indeed a physicist. But then most of us climate scientists do have other gigs.
That is so true. I mean, as well as physicists, we are chemists and biologists, ecologists, geologists, oceanographers, mathematicians, statisticians, soil scientists.
Yes, Rob, they get the picture. It's a vast spectrum of science that's been synthesized.
Sorry, I do get carried away. But you know, it just isn't entirely obvious, even to scientists sometimes, that understanding Earth's incredibly complex climate system to the level that we do is the very tippy top.
Some might even say pinnacle.
Exactly, the pinnacle of this vast pyramid of scientific achievement. A pyramid built over centuries, but with this pinnacle possible only in just the last few decades.
You could then say, Rob, that we are the very first generation to begin to understand this complex planetary system.
Yes, Rob, I think we can say that. And because what we're coming to understand about this planetary system is so important, we and hundreds of our colleagues, many hundreds, all around the world, have been talking about it a lot, publicly, for a while now. Around these parts, people have come to know us as the two Robs. Need to talk about climate change? You can call the two Robs.
Okay then, well, let's quickly review what everyone's heard and what we're talking about. Earth is warming, and this warming is caused by human carbon emissions.
And this is what it looks like. From the end of the 19th century to the middle of the 20th to today.
And here's the thing, Rob. This warming is very risky for humans. It's already changing the whole climate system. It's already impacting people, and it's accelerating. And if we continue on our current path and raise the Earth's average temperature even just 2 degrees Celsius, these impacts could indeed become catastrophic to humans. Not so many decades from now.
And we're pretty sure about this, Rob?
Yes, Rob, we are. We nerdy, introverted, awkward, skeptical climate scientists are very sure about this, and we're very worried. So much so that many are doing something completely unnatural for climate scientists, making some very strong public statements.
That's true. Scientists like Lonnie Thompson, one of the world's preeminent glaciologists.
Virtually all climatologists are now convinced that global warming is a clear and present danger to civilization.
James Hansen, former director of NASA's Goddard Institute and one of the world's most accomplished climate scientists.
A 2-degree change is a recipe for disaster. Now, such warming would be far into the dangerous range. Now, we have a very sensitive climate system, and we've only witnessed so far a fraction of the results.
And Kevin Anderson, a prominent researcher in carbon budgets.
The impact associated with 2 degrees has been revised upwards. Such warming now represents the threshold between dangerous and extremely dangerous climate change. There is a widespread view that a 4-degree future is incompatible with an organized global community, likely to go beyond adaptation, and devastating to the majority of ecosystems.
These are just a sample, representative of the many, many public statements of the mainstream climate community.
So this just doesn't sound very good, Rob. We're saying 2 degrees is dangerous, 4 degrees could be catastrophic. And where are we now?
We've already warmed about 1 degree, and we're on track for another degree in the next few decades. The bottom line, we're going to need a truly meaningful response on a scale commensurate with the enormous risks we're facing.
And so what constitutes a meaningful response? Well, in short, we need to stop dumping carbon into the atmosphere, something we do principally by burning fossil fuels. Carbon is driving the warming. And physics can actually calculate how much more carbon we can put into the air and still maintain a reasonable chance of staying below 2 degrees. And here is that remaining carbon budget.
And here's how fast we're going to burn through it if we continue on our current path.
And finally, here is that carbon budget relative to the proven current carbon reserves. So this is coal and oil and natural gas that we humans have already found and know how to dig up.
So clearly, the physics tells us we need to change, and we need to do it in a hurry if we hope to bequeath a livable planet to our kids.
That's true. Although, you know, Rob, I don't actually have any kids.
Actually, Rob, neither do I. But we do know a lot of people who have kids.
Yes, we do. And we like their kids. Most of them. And so here's a bit of good news. It turns out people have actually been listening to us scientists, Rob. Lots of people. And after decades of delay, we do seem to be moving faster towards this truly meaningful response. There are many things happening. We can read now about the accelerating decline of coal, for example, the accelerating rise of renewable energies, even emerging leadership in places like China, whose carbon policies are now outpacing us in the United States.
Even long-time bastions of resistance are changing their tune. Agribusiness is calling for action. Big banks are calling for action. Younger conservatives are questioning older conservatives.
Some of the presidential candidates, at last, have jumped in.
So has the Pope.
And so all of this and so much more is unquestionably great news. But here's the thing.
Rob, I know what you're going to say here, and it's the reason why we don't get invited to parties anymore.
As good as all of this sounds, it's just not enough. It's not big enough, and it is not fast enough.
Not even close. The changes underway are positive, but not enough to stay within our budget.
The problem is, if we bust this budget, risks go up rapidly. Now, these are risks, they're not certainties.
It's possible we'll invent ourselves out of this, or maybe the climate system isn't as sensitive as we think, but that's not the evidence we have.
No, it really isn't. It's wishful thinking. And wishful thinking is not a good foundation for risk management.
Prudent thinking is the foundation for risk management. Some might even call it conservative.
Conservative thinking indeed, especially when the risks are this high. But you know what? We don't even need wishful thinking. We don't need a single bit of new technology. We don't need a single new convert to the cause, not one. It's not a lack of know-how. And the naysayers and the can't-doers, they're not holding us back. In fact, they're irrelevant.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking to you, Bill, from the discussion string on the latest Trib article on clean energy.
And you, Eugene, from the Twitter feed on the latest polar ice update. You guys are irrelevant. And here's why. Because when someone is standing still, it's easy for the rest of us to step around.
And how is it we know this, Rob?
Like we know most things, Rob, from science.
And What science might that be?
Well, in this case, it's social science.
So you're saying the hard sciences have done their jobs, right? We have the knowledge we need, we have the technology we need.
Precisely. The hard sciences have done their jobs, and now the harder sciences, the social sciences, are stepping up. And they have learned some things. 10%, for example, is one thing they've learned.
10%, you say?
That's right, 10%. Social scientists tell us that if as little as 10% of a population is committed to transforming some aspect of their society, then that can be enough to push past the tipping point.
And how might we get there?
Well, we're scientists, Rob, so let's do a little math.
Okay.
It turns out, in our home state of Utah, for example, a significant majority already understand that climate change is a problem that requires action.
So, we're saying that more than half the state is worried?
Exactly. And even more interesting, a strong majority in Utah also believes climate change will harm future generations. And nationally, these numbers are even more lopsided.
So half the state is worried, and half the state thinks their children are at risk. Half is quite a bit more than 10%. So the question beckons then, why isn't our state taking even the most basic steps?
It's a good question. And the answer, it would appear, is that of the 1.6 million of us here in Utah, and the tens of millions of us across the nation, who already believe climate change will harm our kids, not even 10% of us are yet behaving like it.
So, as we said before, it's not the naysayers, can-doers, and cynics that are holding us back. Let's not trumpet them.
Instead, if those of us who already believe this is a problem
Actually started behaving like it,
then the can't-be-done minority is irrelevant. That's the deal.
that's good, Rob, because here's the other deal. Not only are we the first generation to understand the problem of climate change, we are likely the last generation who can do anything about it.
12 months ago, 400,000 peaceful activists assembled in the streets of New York. That's 400,000 people using their voices.
2 months from now, world leaders will gather en masse à Paris, trying once again to agree on action.
And so the time is ripe to use our voices. It's time for us to let the fossils go. We have the knowledge, we have the technology. Now we need the 10%.
So if you belong to our generation, it's time to get a jiggle on. The science is clear, time to let the fossils go. It's up to us to figure it out.
If you don't belong to our generation, if you're younger, if you're a university student or a high school student, even a middle school or grade school student, our advice to you is don't hold your breath waiting for us. We need you to pose an intervention to help us, to make us let the fossils go. Because frankly, at the moment, we grown-ups just aren't getting it done. But we scientists will have your backs, so use your voice.
Or lose your voice.
10%, that's the math.
That's
the
the
deal.
deal.